I played football all the way through high school, and then when I got to college, I was in theater. Those two groups just, at least in high school, they hated each other. They thought they were just like, could not be any further apart. And what I discovered was that they're identical. We rehearse for 8 weeks in theater. We have training camp in football. We have opening night in theater. We have our first game in football. There's a halftime.
Between halves, the crowd is entertained by some great professional talent, and they love it.
And the drama in theater, it's scripted, and you know basically where it maxes out. It's a little trickier to explain in football because it's spontaneous, because we don't know where the climax of the thing is.
Russell Wilson, quick throw. And it's
Let's go!
Intercepted by Malcolm Butler!
I really believe this, and my theater friends will kill me for saying this, but I think that football does it better.
I was asked to host the NFL Honors a couple of years. You meet these people who are these heroes of yours. It's like meeting the biggest movie star in the world. I mean, when I met Kirk Douglas, I thought I was gonna wet my pants. When I met Gregory Peck, I couldn't talk, I couldn't breathe. And I felt the exact same way when I'm backstage and there's Barry Sanders. And I said, can I take a picture with you? And he's a very humble guy, very shy guy. And he goes, you want to take a picture with me? And I'm like, yeah, I want to take a picture with you. And like a movie, I'm just seeing him like rolling around like a pinball, you know, and just never getting touched, never getting tackled, doing the thing that Sanders did that made him this legend, you know? And I'm standing next to him going, how did you do that? How did you learn to do that?
Barry Sanders, he was just explosive, a crazy playmaker. He was almost guaranteed to make someone look silly every time he touched the ball.
My favorite player growing up, I would probably start with Marcus Allen. He was very graceful, very powerful.
I remember growing up watching Marcus. Everybody wanted to be the running back, wanted to have the ball.
I like guys who I think could play today, not only today, they could play in the 80s, they could play in the 70s, they can play in the 60s, they can play in any era. But on Sunday, they came to play, and they came to win.
You know, football is played all over the world, Rog. There's like soccer, there's rugby football, there's Gaelic football.
Aussie football.
Aussie rules football, all kinds of football.
Inferior football.
But American football is the only code of football in the world where you're allowed to kick the ball forward, you're allowed to run forwards, you're allowed to pass the ball forwards. There's no limitation on moving forward. It is the frontier thesis of world sport, only played out in America. It's what makes the NFL so intrinsically American, so intrinsically positive, so intrinsically hopeful, and you just can't stop watching it.
Oh, we got Lewis and Clark to thank for that.
You know what's really interesting about my father, Bert Bell? He saw the future of the NFL. And I've seen it since I was born in 1937, seen it all the way through to today. I think I'm one of the few people alive that has seen it since then. It's a dream come true.
As a 6-year-old growing up in Chicago, I was there at the very beginning of the league when guys like Red Grange and Bronco Nagurski, and those names were the big ones.
We were in awe of Jim Brown and, quite frankly, his physique. We had never seen anything like this.
Johnny Unitas, you wanted to be like Johnny.
Joe Namath wasn't a guy. I was this, 8 or 9-year-old quarterback. Joe Namath was my idol.
Roman Gabriel, and that was a pretty unique name, and it sounded biblical.
Some little girls had Barbie. I had Larry Zonka.
Tony Dorsett, Monday Night Football, the 99-yard, the longest play you could possibly have. And that was definitely a highlight of my childhood.
Big opening for Tony Dorsett, 99 yards and a half.
John Elway, just watching him run around and create these incredible plays.
That was probably what drew me to watching professional football.
You know, I remember watching Steve McNair shrug off guy after guy after guy, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that.
If you would have written this script, you wouldn't have believed it.
I just kind of grew up a big fan of Tim Tebow. I just kind of started watching him. And so I just fell in love with just the way he carried himself, the way he played, the passion. He just competed every week, and I just wanted to be just like him.
So dangerous when you have a quarterback with mobility.
These players you see on all of the teams are the best of the best, and they have a physicality and they have a visceral nature about them that, as little kids, you could only one day hope to have. Like, they are real-life gladiators, except they get to live after every game. And you can get so invested into them emotionally, and there's something about the NFL that does that to people more than any other sport.
Falling in love with the game, man. We all did it in the backyard, in the streets and stuff, man, with my brothers.
First of all, the Jets are kind of made for me because I was made in the same year of the last Super Bowl championship for the Jets. We're both 50 in a way. So we were kind of meant to be, you know?
One day I remember falling in love with the NFL, I think right after the doctor smacked me on the ass.
I grew up in the 90s in Dallas, Texas. And in Texas, it's like you grow up playing football. If you're not playing football, you're a cheerleader. If you're not a cheerleader, you go to the games and you're a fan. It's so much a part of our culture in Texas. And so the love of the game is something that's just kind of always been there. I was a cheerleader since I was a little, tiny little something, playing in like PSA games. And my first team that I was on was the Cowboys. And so that's kind of how I fell in love with the idea of the Cowboys.
I grew up in Leavenworth, Kansas, which is about an hour from Kansas City. But my father was a just dedicated Kansas City Chiefs fan. Their year, 1969, I remember the Super Bowl.
World champions, baby! Nice going! Yeah!
It just seared into me from that moment on. I will be a Kansas City Chiefs fan for life.
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, and the Bears are, I mean, they're everything to Chicago.
I grew up in Denver. I'm a huge Broncos fan because Shannon Sharp was just that guy, and I just remember him flexing, you know, all the time when he scored touchdowns, man. That was real cool.
Well, I was fortunate because I grew up outside of Pittsburgh, and I watched Bradshaw and the Steelers, you know, go through their Super Bowl runs, and still a Steeler fan today.
I grew up in Minneapolis, and I was a Viking fan until they passed on me 12 times in the draft.
I grew up in New York, so my father took me to games at Yankee Stadium, so obviously I was a Giants fan.
I am a Long Island kid. I grew up in Hempstead, Long Island, and everything was Jets. The Jets were tops. Definitely.
I was born in Copenhagen, Denmark in 1960. I came to America as a 17-year-old exchange student in high school. I thought I was going to be playing soccer at the high school team. That turned out to be false information, apparently, because when the ball was shown to me, it wasn't round. So that was my first dilemma. What am I going to do with this ball? I said, all you got to do is kick and run off the field, and here we are, you know, 42 years later.
To be a Hall of Fame kicker only, you must be born in Scandinavia. There are only two of these, Jan Stenerud, Norway. Tonight, Morten Andersen, born in Denmark.
I was born in the former Soviet Union. So when I came to America, obviously I knew nothing about football. There was no lineage. Then I moved to Edison, New Jersey in the summer of 1982. And I went outside, because that's what kids in the 80s did, and found some kids playing with a Nerf football. And my friend, Eric Godfrey, looked me in the face and said, "Who do you like?" And I said, "I don't even know what you're..." I'm not sure if I even knew what he said, because I'm not sure I understood English fully yet. And he said, "You're a New York Jets fan." And I said, "Okay." And these kids really accepted me. The next day they played with me, the next day, and they became my friends. So I jumped on with them, and I've basically watched every snap of a New York Jets game since. And I'm not kidding. Weddings, funerals, vacations, college. I watch every snap of New York Jets football.
Falling in love with the game, man. We all did it in the backyard, in the streets and stuff, man, with my brothers.
My brother, he said, go ahead, tackle me. And I didn't know what a tackle was. I didn't know what he was talking about. So I, okay. And I hit him and I knocked him down. And he wasn't mad. And he said that was a tackle. And they do that in football. And I was like, you get to hit people like that, knock them down in football? He said, yeah. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Me and my brother would always go at it because I was a fan of defense. He would always score, like, there's no way you're gonna stop him from that end zone.
You know, that's the old era where you go knock on the door. Hey, man, we go and play. Hey, Peter, John, you know, and then you go down and you pick the team, then you play touch on the street, tackle on the grass, and a lot of times tackle on the street.
Two-hand touch, you know, out in the park with the neighborhood kids. Just crazy sandlot games. Because I was so tall, they could throw the ball over everybody and I could catch it, you know. And so everybody wanted me on their team. Just got into the game that way.
I loved it so much, and it was in my soul that I was one of the first little girls in the country to play organized football.
I liked the sport, and I always wanted to do it.
I was a little girl, and I just wanted to play.
This guy jumped off sides a lot. This is me, I would guess, probably 3rd or 4th grade. I was a big kid. Shockingly, offensive lineman. The most notable thing about this picture, I don't know if you can zoom in, is I have a hole in my pants, in my crotch. So that white spot you see right here, that's my underwear. Yeah, never let my mom forget about that. Piper Pirates.
I play football every day after school, every day. I love football. I love to hit people. I loved it even when I was a baby. My mother tells me one day, Philip, we're going to the dentist. I get in the car, I'm pouting, and she looks over at me and she goes, you love that game, don't you? I said, yes, I do. And she goes, do you know you could do that when you grow up? I said, what are you talking about? I can do that for a job. And it never left my mind. From that day on, I wanted to be a pro football player. And man, I had a dream, and I made this happen.
My father was watching the Cleveland Browns beat the Baltimore Colts. I've never seen my father happier.
NFL Sundays in the WAHLBERG house was a black and white TV with no knobs, so we used a butter knife to change the channels, a coat hanger for an antenna, and my dad slapping the side of the TV so the vertical hold would stop.
And my dad really couldn't get a good picture. You know how they had a TV and he had rabbit ears and it was like kind of snowing, but it really wasn't snowing because the TV was so bad.
We had about a 10-inch screen TV, so we had a very small TV, but we got football on it,
and you just hope and pray, like, okay, I think I'm starting to make out Bryant Gumbel's face, you know, or if you switched over to CBS, oh, there's Irv Cross, okay, we got it, let's go.
The New England Patriots, the hottest team in the National Football League, think they have the league's best all-around quarterback, and I talked with them.
Probably the biggest play.
Those times have something that goes into the fiber of who you are, and it's made the NFL such a huge part of our lives.
I fell in love with football because of my dad. I was supposed to be his All-American linebacker. I'm an only child. When I was born a girl, he was really quite surprised. He'd already bought a football for John, who was going to be a linebacker. And so he just decided to teach me instead. And I can remember, Condoleezza, what are they doing? Daddy, they're setting up for a screen. What kind of block was that? That was a trap block, Daddy. So I really enjoyed it with my father. Later on, we brought my mother on side, but mostly it was time with my dad.
December 27th, 1964, Municipal Stadium, Cleveland, Ohio.
You know, probably the greatest moment for me was 1964. My father was watching the Cleveland Browns beat the Baltimore Colts, man. I've never seen my father happier.
And the Cleveland Browns are world champions.
And remembering the look on my old man's face, man, I said, man, this must be something cool.
Municipal Stadium rings with approval.
My dad, he got season tickets to take his two young boys to see pro football.
the New York Jets at Shea Stadium.
Shea Stadium, the home of the New York Jets, is the setting for our game of the week.
68, they won the Super Bowl. I was 13. I was hooked for life.
The New York Jets are the world champions.
So here I am, young, trying to learn about the NFL, and my dad said, this is number 4.
Hey, let's go every drive. We got to think that way. We really got to think that way.
This is Brett Favre. He will throw some passes in the air that make you go, no, no.
Touchdown, Green Bay.
Yes.
Brett Favre can throw from more angles than any quarterback that's ever played.
My dad was a die-hard black and gold fan.
For the AFC Championship, he launches a rainbow and it goes up and it's starting to come down to the end zone. It is juggled. A Golden Word Colt player signaling touchdown.
Remotes were getting tossed, couches were getting flipped with whether or not the Steelers would win each week. And that's when I became an NFL diehard.
The ball hit the turf. It is dropped. No time on the clock. The Steelers are going to the Super Bowl.
Also on draft day, when the Pittsburgh Steelers chose not to draft me, that was also another moment where Tim McAfee was not excited.
So the Colts will have to punt it back.
He became a Colts fan for 8 years, and as soon as I retired, right back to the Steelers, and I think that's how it should be, to be honest.
My high school dream in my yearbook was to play for the Los Angeles Rams. And Wayne Walker, who was drafted by the Detroit Lions, was my classmate at the University of Idaho. He was waiting for me outside my class. I came out at 1 o'clock, and he said, "You got drafted." I said, "Cool, that's really neat. What round?" And he said, "4th round." "Who drafted me?" "Green Bay." "Wow, that's really neat. Wow." "Where the hell is Green Bay?"
My parents, they always put on jerseys, they put on their Steelers stuff, they put on perfume and cologne, they do it all. And they watch the game, and they're always so hyped about everything that happens. Like, if we make a touchdown, it's like, oh, yeah, we did that, yeah, what's up? And they always have my other family, like my cousins and my uncles that aren't Steelers fans, and they have them come, and they both watch the same game against each other. And I also think that's really fun, and it's just really funny to be a part of that.
Hello, sports fans. This is Bob Neal, bringing you the best show in football.
It is the greatest collection of football players you have ever seen in your life.
Professional football is the greatest entertainment in sports today.
The thing that I love the most about the NFL is the ritual of it. The anticipation of coming together as fans, as friends, as family, as a community to see greatness, to see a fourth quarter, Hail Mary pass caught.
Staubach hit Pearson. Would you believe it? It's a Minneapolis miracle!
Every play has the opportunity to be something great.
It's caught out of the air by Franco Harris.
No other sport gives me that sense of belonging.
I can remember sitting in the living room of Grandpa Bill and Grandma Marie Harbaugh's house, and we were watching the game.
And everybody's there. My whole family's there. My mom had 2 sisters, and they had 15 kids.
It's kind of a family game. Like, people, you want to watch. You want to watch with your friends. You want to watch with your families. You want to make a day of it.
My husband is a Bills fan. My son is a Cowboys fan, and I'm a Steelers fan. And it's just crazy in my house because we all fight over the games and who's gonna win.
You'll have a couple of guys with Ram jerseys, a couple of guys with Raider jerseys, a couple of guys with Green Bay jerseys, a couple of guys with Dallas Cowboys. And I love football because that's what football does. Brings people together to have a good time.
Where else in life can you go and there's 40 guys that are from every parts of the country that come together, and for 60 minutes you have one goal? It's the ultimate team sport. You have to depend on the man next to you in order to be good, and there's something beautiful about that.
All that matters is that dude sitting next to me is my brother, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make sure that he's cool, that he's safe.
And you depend on each other, and to work together, and that's what I love about it. The diversity, having to work together to accomplish one goal.
Let's go. Do it, baby.
You have to appreciate that. When it's all said and done, those
those relationships and friendships will last a lifetime.
They push each other to the limit and leave everything on the field, and that shows you teamwork, friendship, faith, hope.
You always have a chance to win every time you walk into a stadium. And it doesn't matter what the score is, doesn't matter how many you won or lost. The most important game is the one you play, because that's the only one you can win is the one you play.
And Pazorczyk fumbles the football. It's picked up by Herman. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I like the fact that there's no feeling like there is on game day.
There's no place else you'd rather be than right here, right now. When it's too tough for them, it's just right.
Play hard, play clean, play to win, but win or lose, dig right back in.
Win or lose, the game is just crazy fun. I don't know how else to explain it. It's difficult, it's hard, no matter what level you're at. But crazy rewarding. I'm a die-hard NFL fan, and I always will be. I mean, when the football season's over, I'm a little depressed, I gotta admit.